Hi everyone, I'm so glad you're here. I'm going to talk to you today about Chrome extensions. Hi, I'm Shir. I'm a senior full stack developer and I've been doing mainly full stack for the past 8 years. I didn't thought I'd become a programmer. I mean, as a kid, I wanted to be a ballet dancer. I actually started to program before I knew what it was. You see, I was 12 and I wanted to have a website about fairies, and so I looked up what was needed to create one. I ended up learning the basics of HTML, JavaScript, and CSS, but I didn't think I was programming. I thought I was just creating a website. Long story short, I ended up majoring computer science at high school and thinking that it's interesting, but it's also only for people who want to build computer games, which I had no interest in. It was only in the army that I realized you can actually build and create so many meaningful softwares, and it was also only then that I realized I actually programmed when I was 12. For me, the best part about software development is the creativity that comes with it. It makes me so sad to hear people describing it as gray and boring, because I think it's pretty much the opposite of that. So for me, creativity really is what makes software development the wonderful thing that it is. Now let's dive into the lecture. We all use extensions, right? Whether you're using ad blocker or maybe you're using Grammarly, you have some installed. We kind of take them for granted these days, as we're so used to having them. But it wasn't so long ago that they didn't exist. So let's have a quick recap. The first extensions were supported by IE in 1999, and little by little, 10 years later, all existing browsers supported them. Chrome extensions are giving the user the opportunity to extend the already existing functionality of the browser. With time, extensions have gained the ability to do more and more in the browser, which in turn made them grow in popularity. Side note is that nowadays, most browsers support a very similar API for extensions as Chrome does, meaning if you learn the API of Chrome, you pretty much know how to do it for other browsers as well. So what's so cool about that? Well, it brings up a whole new world of possibilities. We have the ability to modify or enrich the experience of another software. An extension can do almost anything on the existing page, that is, once you allow it. And for a product, that's some great power, the ability to add on to the actual structure that the user requests us to. We have more information about the current state of the user. While on regular full stack, we can only ask the user for information or maybe get it when he integrates with some other services. When we develop extensions, by living in the browser, the user immediately allows us to get information about the browser. And so we are able to create something that can be much more precise. And you can actually base a full platform on these. Though most extensions use this just to interact with a single page, you can actually build a full-on application using the APIs that are provided by Chrome. I've written full stack code for more than 8 years now, so I thought extensions development would be very similar to that. I mean, it's still web dev, isn't it? So nope, it's still JavaScript, but it is different. The basic of the difference comes from the fact that you're writing code that runs in other people's websites. That's a game changer. Moreover, since we're actually living in another software, debugging and deploying is also very different. Okay, so what are extensions really made of? Let's talk infrastructure. Each extension is usually made up of these 4 basic components. First off, we have the manifest.json, which is the config. This is the place that holds references to your extensions icons, to other required scripts, and to the required privileges that your extension is going to ask for. Then you have the UI components. You can have many or you can have none. And the basic one is called the pop-up, which is that little view that is opened once you click on an extension. Then we come to the two more interesting components, the background and the content scripts. Since extensions are all about reacting to certain browser events, background scripts are the scripts that will actually listen to these events. It handles all the events from the browser, not only for the specific page. Let's take an example. There's an extension called Dark Reader, and if you're not familiar with it, it's just a great one. It turns your whole page black. So let's say you are the Dark Reader extension, and you've darkified the whole page. Great. Then your user switches to a new tab. So you probably want to be notified about that to be able to darken that page. This is where the background script comes to play. The background script is where you will register that events handler. Now let's take a closer look. Here you can see the Women on Stage website. And you see that I got the Dark Reader extension open up. By the way, this is the pop-up that I talked to you about before. So again, here the Dark Reader is toggled off. And this is how the page looks like once I turned on the extension. As you can see, it's dark. Now the user opens a new tab, and you're going to see what will happen in the developer tools. I put on a breakpoint beforehand. Bam! As you can see, the background script stopped on a breakpoint. This breakpoint is inside of a listener that listened to the tab changed event. So this way, Dark Reader knows that it needs to darken the new tab that the user opened. I want to emphasize this once more. This doesn't happen on the page. It happens in the browser. And because we live in the browser, we're able to catch this. Moving along to content scripts. Content scripts are the JavaScript that we actually inject into the web pages. That way, we can do various things, like get data from the page, add or change something in the UI, etc. In the Dark Reader example, this is the part that actually changes the CSS of the page so it turns dark. This is all done through content scripts using a concept called isolated worlds. Isolated worlds, in a nutshell, basically means that the extension scripts and the web page scripts don't conflict with each other, and they never will. The last piece of architecture that I wanted to talk to you about today is messaging. Since content scripts run in the context of a web page and not the extension, they often need some way to communicate with the rest of the extension. The solution for this is called messaging. Basically, there are two Chrome APIs that allow us to message from content scripts to extension scripts and vice versa. One is called the Chrome Runtime API, and the other is the Chrome Tabs API. These APIs are based on the event handling mechanism that exists in JavaScript. And so we are able to trigger a message from one component and assign an event handler on the other side that will catch it. In the example that is on the screen, you can see how simple it is to use those APIs. Lastly, there are some challenges. The first one that I want to talk to you about is conflicting with your host's user experience. As an extension, you want to make sure that whatever you're putting on a page that is not yours is not interfering with the existing user experience that is already there. It's a major one because we don't know what a user experience is, so we have to be pretty gentle. Second challenge is that we want to stay compatible with the different markups. Again, since we are an extension and we run on different websites, there are so many ways today that people write their own markup, or it might be just the type of the programmer, it might be a framework that is generating that markup. Whatever it be, we want our extension to behave the same on different markups. And lastly, I want to mention that deploying is actually not in your hands. When we write full stack, we are used to be able to just choose a method of deploying and do the whole thing ourselves. It's not a case when you're writing an extension, because deploying an extension is actually uploading it to the store. And the process of uploading an extension to the Google Store means that you have to go through an approval cycle. This might take an hour, it might take a day, and it might take a week. So it's just important to mention that you have to take this into consideration when you want to deploy. So this was it. Today we talked about Chrome extensions. I want to sum it up and say that we talked a bit about the history behind them. We talked about the different components that are necessary for it. And we also mentioned how they work. We examined some of the opportunities that arrive with it, as well as the challenges. I hope it was interesting and that you'll give extensions development a try sometime soon. Thank you so much for your attention. You can find me out on Twitter at Matishevski. That is, if you can spell it. Thank you very, very much.